Dropshipping is another one of those business models which everybody on the internet likes to talk about, but no one really tells us what it is. As somebody who's been learning about this for over 6 months now and has actually made quite a lot of money with it, I want to explain what the concept is, how it works, and why it could possibly be one of the best business ideas that you could start going into 2024 and for the late part of 2023. So we'll start off by looking at what dropshipping is, how it works, why people do it, and why it is such a great idea. If you enjoy this sort of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, as I do make all sorts of videos very, very often. Anyway, let's begin by talking about what dropshipping is. Dropshipping is something which people massively overcomplicate, but as a concept, it's actually really simple. The whole idea of dropshipping is simply this. There's an item for sale somewhere. I then resell the item and send it out to somebody else without me ever having to touch the item. So to talk about a realistic example of how this could work, let's say for example something's on AliExpress for £10. Let's say, I don't know, this USB drive that's on my site here, you can't see it, but it's an example. Let's say I can buy this USB drive on AliExpress for £10. Then I take it over to Amazon or eBay for example and list that item for £20. The item costs £10 more. And you might be thinking, well, you don't have the item in stock, so how can you sell it? That's how it works. So whenever an order comes into my store, I then put your address into AliExpress and then send the order directly to you. I never even touch the order to begin with. See, it's a really great concept, and the reason why a lot of people talk about this is because it is something which can massively help people to grow a reselling business, or even a selling business in the first place. And I'll explain why that is too. When we talk about reselling for an actual business, we have to buy stuff immediately. If we want to start a true reselling business. I wanted to start a clothes reselling business, and I've had to invest a couple of £100 into clothes. Otherwise, I don't have anything to sell. It's simple and common sense. With dropshipping though, we're in quite a different situation. As we don't have to really have any money up front to buy inventory, we only buy when people order. That way we don't risk any of our capital, because all of the orders are guaranteed. Yes, we might still get refunds and returns, but that's just what you'd expect with, customer service and retail anyway. But as a concept, we risk far less of our capital. All we have to pay is sellers' fees on our platforms. We have to pay, the other maintenance costs and factor in the returns and refunds that we might get. But you get what I'm saying, it's really, really simple. So it's a very, very easy idea. And at this point you may be asking, is this allowed? Is this ethical? Now we can answer that question in two parts. Is this allowed? Yes. Dropshipping is a legal business model in most countries. Here in the UK it is, and I know that for most countries that I've seen, I can't speak for all because I don't know about every single country, but for every country that I've seen it does appear to be a legal business model. It definitely is here. But when we talk about ethics, that's something which people are divided on. The law is an outright yes or no. We got an answer on that straight away, and it's like, yes, it is legal. Ethics is a little bit different. Is it unethical to mark things up by 50%, 100%? That's dependent on the person. What I would say though is, when you go to a shop, they mark items up. Everywhere marks items up. The way that I've always seen it is, people are paying a price for something that they want. If I sell an item for £100, the person who buys it must have thought it was a fair price, or else they wouldn't have been comfortable buying it in the first place. It's not like I'm selling important goods that people desperately need. When you're selling luxury items, people are happy paying the price. And I see the difference in the middle as my commission between linking buyers with suppliers. I think that's fair, and in my eyes, that is ethical. But again, it is something which is a lot more subjective, depending on what you think. But business is obviously about making money, and you do have to make a profit somewhere. So I would say, in my opinion, it is an ethical business model. So now we know what dropshipping is and how it works. How do we capitalize upon it, and why is it such a great business idea? Well, just as we spoke about in a previous point, one of the reasons why it's so great is because we don't have to have inventory. This means that we can grow our business much faster. Just going back to the clothes analogy a second ago, when I'm starting up my clothes shop, let's say I've got a budget of £200. I can only buy so many items for £200. I have a finite amount of items. But imagine if I could list every single item I could come across, because I don't have to source it. I could list, 1,000 items? 200,000 items? Anything. And that's a great thing about dropshipping. You can fill out a store and not risk very much capital. Another great thing about it is you can think about what products work and what products don't, which is unfortunately something which happens too late in the process of actually shipping stuff out. Like I say, when I sell clothes, I have to come back and list that clothes. I need to find out what works and what doesn't, and some of my items will probably not sell. That's just a fact. In dropshipping though, when my items don't sell, just take them off. I've got no inventory to worry about, it's okay. That's a brilliant difference. You can expand much faster, and that's one of the great things about it. Also, you don't even have to have an inventory at all, there's no need for that. So you can save on warehousing costs or even just the hassle of storing things around the house, which is another win to me. On top of that, all of the work is basically done. It depends where you're selling and what you are selling, because you want to be careful not to infringe upon copyright and anything like that. But for the most part, you can copy and paste all the details. You have one listing that you can just take to another place, and then you have, a new listing. It's a lot easier, it's a lot simpler, and it just makes sense for a lot of people. So the reason why I think dropshipping is such an easy and great business model that anybody can start is because, again, you don't need much capital for it, with the exception of fees on some platforms and memberships, all that kind of stuff. We don't have to pay anything until we get paid. Yes, we might have to have some reserve capital, because some platforms, like, for example, I know for a fact eBay and also PayPal don't really like to pay people out initially. Sometimes there's like a 30-day wait, so we might have to have some buffer capital whilst we wait for our money to come back in, but for the most part we do still get the money, we don't lose anything. And I think for that reason, there's minimal risk with dropshipping as a concept. You obviously have to be careful about what you're dropshipping, but it's minimal risk. The returns is obviously unlimited because you don't have to risk anything to begin with, so risk to reward, it makes perfect sense. On top of that, you can expand rapidly, and you don't really have to do very much. All you have to worry about is customer service for your store and that kind of stuff. Then we move on to where do you sell the stuff. Now, obviously, that is going to depend. I can make a full detailed video talking about what platforms to and to not dropship on, in my opinion, but you can dropship on most platforms. The only thing that you have to worry about with dropshipping, because it is a big hurdle, is delivery times. When you're buying a lot of this stuff, most of it comes from China. You can find suppliers in England or America or anywhere else, but for the most part, if you're buying from AliExpress, places like that, it's coming from China. The problem with that can be the fact it takes 10, 15, 20, 30 days. My policy for dropshipping has always been to try and offer 12-day shipping or less. Any more than that and customers do start to begin to get annoyed, in my personal experience. But if you make it very clear and obvious that things are going to take this long or that long to deliver, people are going to be aware of that, and they know what they're going to get. So overall, dropshipping is a fairly easy business model that anybody can get into. All you need is access to a computer and an internet connection, and you're basically good to go. It's something that I've done on multiple platforms, and as I've spoken about before, I am still doing and trying to grow my whole dropshipping empire, if you will. But that was it for this one. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. I do hope that I'll see you again soon in our next video, so see you again soon.